initially my plans to go to Scotland were to meet my friend Carrie, who's been a friend of mine for some time, but we've never met. And today we finally did face to face on Skype, and it was wonderful. It really was. And she and I were talking about everything. She's been concerned about me, and honestly, her calling me back made my year. It's just such a delight. You know, over here we on Facebook we communicate with one another, but with me, the presence and eye contact are very important. And making faces with the kids, I tried to scare them with a little bit of overtoning, and they just giggled. You know, um, pagan children are just the best in the world when they're cradled right and treated with respect and allowed to be the people that they are. And as we were talking, in working with Shea and his fire art, I'm always looking for the right scenery, the right music, those things that will enhance the photography of what he's doing. Um, and one of the things that held me back from going, to Scotland was the fact that I didn't want to go over there alone. And I think we may have a solution to that. Now I just have to find the ways and means to do it. But I think that is going to be something that will happen perhaps around Beltane next year. But it was just so remarkable talking to my friend and seeing her in her environment. Um, you know, I know I worry people. Um, but I am not just indigenous to the United States on the internet. We have a chapter of the Gossamer Court in Ho Chi Minh City and in Bangkok, and I can't figure out how to make Skype work to talk to them over there. But as I'm growing older, my ability and willingness to travel all the time is really fading. And I've looked for ways to communicate with people, and I think that the best way that I can do it is by carrying my reportable little media station with me. Um, Getting back to the idea of Shea doing fire art in the scenery of Scotland, and if any of you have ever been there, you know. I mean, there are just so many sights and so many places in the texture of that beautiful country. And I am for a free Scotland, okay? Screw the Queen. But, you know, God, it is a wonderful life. And those of you out there do so much to make it so. I live in a world of leprechauns and fairies and other astral creatures. And of course people think I'm insane, which I suppose clinically I am. But coming from the South, one must remember, unlike the North of this country where they lock the crazy people up, in the South they put you on the porch to talk to everyone. They're pretty much proud of you at that point. So, there's definitely a difference of mindset. And growing up in Key West, I can tell you there are a lot of crazy people there. But eventually I would like to figure out a way to get us to Amsterdam and Scotland, and to take Shea to my ancestral homeland, the Lap country of Sweden. It's absolutely beautiful there. Of course, both of us hate the cold, so a Yuletide is unlikely. When my cousin called me and asked me to come over for Yule last year, and she was telling me about the ice hotel, which they put together every year. I mean, it's fur over a block of ice. I don't care. It's still fur over a block of ice, and I'm not sleeping on that. And she's like, we've got lots of Absolute. And I'm like, there's not enough to keep me warm. So anyway, in looking at this, there is just so much potential and endless possibility out there for all of us. And I call the computer, the mixed blessing of good and evil. Um, but there is so much that we can do in reaching out to one another, and that just happened today, and it was just extraordinary. You know, the most magical things are the simplest things. A simple conversation with a friend, a walk just out in nature, a walk on the beach, taking in a beautiful full moon, going out and putting your prayers and intent into a new moon, feeling the celestial wonder around you from that universe within. These are all things that you know I pretty much live by. Um, in a sense, Scotland also is an ancestral homeland. I have, people over there. Of course, they're Swedes. All that raping and pillaging of the Vikings, and some of them have been around long enough to, have prominent sigils that they can display, showing their heredity. Um, God, there is so much to live for and experience. There's so much adventure out there. And, all you need to do is just take that first step. You know, go out there with love in your heart, temper the fear, by positive feelings. I mean, I was 18 years old, and I saw most of the 44 countries that I've been to before I was 21. And then after I was in the Navy, I went to Asia, which, I fell in love with. When I left Thailand, a friend of mine on the ship just looked at me after like a week, and he's like, "Hughes, what is wrong with you? You're in a fever." So I am trying, just to balance all this out of my head at this point, and to come to an understanding. So, I just wanted to share that with people. It was so delightful talking to Carrie and playing with her kids through Skype. And I think I may do it again. Aw, I got a gift.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. That was RJ, my favorite Appalachian singer. So, you know, let's make it happen. Let's make the magic happen. It's afoot and everywhere. Really, it's as close as your fingertips. You just have to learn to channel it and direct it. That's about all I have now. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth. And Carrie, I love you and the kids, and thank you for making my year. Namaste. Many blessings. Blessed be.